Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here and don't know who I am, my name is Edith and I like to read books and yap about them to you guys. Today we're doing another sit down video back in the living room, which I've only ever filmed one other video right here, which was my favorites recommendations. I'll link it somewhere here, which I posted in honor of my birthday in April, but I filmed it so long ago so I don't even remember when the last time I sat down here to talk. Anyway, today's video is we're halfway through the year type thing. We're gonna do, as you've probably seen other people do, my top 10 reads of the year so far, mixed in with a little top 10 books I am the most excited to read in the next half of the year, which is mostly just my summer TBR or my 2025 TBR that I'm still the most excited to get to. So we have a pile of books. We have my trusty little halfway gone iced coffee. So let's just get right on into it. I will try to link videos. Worst case scenario, I tell you guys the title of the videos most of these books have probably been in. So take it as you will, but that's what I'm gonna try to do because a lot of these have been in reading vlogs. We're going to start off with a classic. If you've been here since the beginning, you'll know that my second ever video was an Onyx Storm reading vlog. I'm pretty sure I even did a little spoiler thoughts at the end of it all. So, if you don't know anything about this, it is the third installment in the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros, which is the Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and then this. And I've absolutely loved every single book in this series. I've given them all 5 stars. So yes, this was in fact a 5, if not 6-star rating. As you can see, I annotated it, and this was actually my first time fully annotating and everything to a book. So it's not perfect. I would have liked the covers I would have liked the tabs to match the cover a little bit more. But like I said, I gave away all my thoughts in a full reading vlog based solely on this book. But I loved it. I didn't even get mad at the ending. Unpopular opinion, I love a little cliffhanger, a little ooh, to get me excited for the next book. Because if this ended with everything resolved, I would have been well, we could have just had 3 books then, which I would not have been mad at. This could totally have been the end, but since we know there's going to be more books, I would rather have it be a cliffhanger and then have to wait for years for the next one. I love this. I love the characters. They feel like my best friends, which I feel is a great thing, and it's important for me in series specifically that I connect to the characters, and I really do that in this. It feels like coming home to your family or your friends, to be back in this world. The love story is amazing, the friendship, everything. It was amazing. Speaking of fictional worlds where I feel at home or seen, or I feel close to the characters, Redeeming Six by Chloe Walsh, because I did in fact read the rest of this series this year, and this will be my favorite that I read this year. If you want to know full ranking, I posted a ranking of the entire series on my TikTok, so go watch that. The link is always in the description. But this is one of my favorites. I'm gonna leave it at that. But it's my favorite one that I've read this year so far. This follows Chloe and Aoife, and I'm not gonna get too much into it because this is obviously the 4th book in a series, so it feels weird to go fully into it. It's the same with Onyx Storm. The characters and the friendships and the couples and everything in this world means everything to me. They are my best friends and possibly even my closest family on paper. And reading these books, as heartbreaking as they are, because they are heartbreaking, and do check trigger warnings, don't go into them expecting YA just because the publishing firms have made that mistake. Check the trigger warnings, because they will in fact rip your heart out. That was how I would actually explain this. It ripped my heart out, and then it tried to put it back together, but with bad tape or something. This world is just amazing. It's so good. And yes, I have in fact read Releasing 10. Again, I have some thoughts up on my TikTok, but I don't think I'm gonna do like a full-on dedicated video to it. And then we have another recent read, which this was such a surprise to me. It is in fact Wild Side by Elsie Silver. If you don't know, this is the Rose Hill series by Elsie Silver. It's her newest release. And when it came out, I hadn't read any of the other books, so I read the 2 others, and then I kind of got burned out, and I heard some mixed things about this, so I didn't read it, and I'm so mad at myself for that. So I kept pushing it, and then Heather, I'll link her channel or something, posted a video, and she started talking about the fact that she loved this. I think she gave like a 4.5. And that kind of convinced me to be like, yeah, I'm gonna read this, because I had to read it for my spring reading challenge. It's a whole nother video, find it on my channel. So basically, I had to read this for that challenge. And I was like, let's just do it. Let's get it over with. And I loved it so much. I gave it a 5-star, which I gave every single book except for one on this list a 5-star. This was so great. Basically, this was just perfect. That's what it was. It was perfect. It was sort of like a fake dating situation because she wants to get her sister's kid, but her sister left the kid to this guy that she barely knows, and she basically thinks he did something really horrible, and he didn't. But basically, again, this had everything I love in a romance. It was slow burn, but not like Mariana Zapata slow burn, but it was how I would say you need to do a very spicy slow burn. So like there's still spice and they still have fun, but it takes a while, and it builds up the relationship and the tension and everything so well before it goes wrong. Also, the kid in this was adorable. Sure, he was very young, so like, whatever. But he was so adorable, and I feel like mixed things about kids in books. They can really get on my nerves. This kid, however, was adorable. Everything about this book was just amazing. We have another recent read. Honestly, all of these are recent. It was all in the last 6 months. So, Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. Again, I'm pretty sure I have a reading vlog of this where I read my most anticipated new releases. And this is officially my favorite Emily Henry book. Could this be because it's the latest one I've read? Sure. But this also made me feel things that no other Emily Henry book has ever made me feel. Basically, things I loved about this. Let's talk about it, because I know there are some controversial opinions out there, and I do not agree. First of all, the romance was very much here, and it was very much one of the best romance plots I've ever written. It had me giggling and feeling butterflies in my stomach because their knees bumped under a table. That alone screams Emily Henry to me. The banter. People are like, they love Emily Henry banter, and then they get this and they don't think it's good enough. I'm sorry, I will go to war for this book. Like, I genuinely want to reread it right now. Also, the other thing people have said a lot about is the other plot, other than the romance, is boring. And then, like, because they don't think there's any romance in it, they think this was boring because they think the boring part took over. I loved the other plot so much. I loved it. It was so interesting in my eyes. So all you need to take away from this is that I loved this. And if you've been like thinking about whether you should read it or not because you've heard mixed things, please do read it and give it a chance. And if you want to have a discussion about this, leave it in the comment, because like I said, I will go to war for this book. And then we have Anxious People by Fredrik Backman, which this is my first book by him. So far it's my first and only. I do want to read more books by him because obviously I love this. This was just, it was so interestingly written. I did start the series, but then I didn't get into it. It was interesting. I don't know what I was expecting, but it was certainly not this. I mean, first of all, when I first got this, I read Anxious People and I thought it was going to be about like, I guess I thought it was going to be about anxiety and like different kind of people with anxiety or something. And I got it. It wasn't until after I got the book that I read the back and I was like, wait, no, this is about or someone who like tries to rob a bank and accidentally takes a group of people hostage. Like, wow. And then I was like, oh, that sounds kind of weird. And then I read it and I was like, oh. And then I cried. Any book that has the ability to make me care to the point where I cry, you just know it's done so well. This was like, it had like some moments where you felt like the thrill of a thriller, along with the deepness and the introduction into people's minds that I love in a normal literary fiction. Let's leave it at that. The Women by Kristin Hannah. Again, the first book of mine by a very famous author. And I love this. I read this in my Reading Goodreads winners video, and this was so great. The female like empowerment and friendship aspect has my heart. She's one of the most amazing and coolest female main characters I've ever read about. This was also sort of my introduction into historical fiction, and I think history can be so interesting depending on which parts of history and what we're focusing on. I think it can be extremely interesting, and this was just that. And then, like I said, what will always make this book special to me is just the women. The women in this book and the way they stand up for each other and the shit they go through and the bullshit society throws in their faces after everything they've done for this society, and how they somehow make it out of that unscathed or like okay, like they help each other become okay. That alone just means so much to me. This book just meant a lot to me, and I cannot wait. I'm gonna read The Nightingale sometime this year. I really am, because I'm so excited. And then we actually have another book that I read in the same video, which is The Ministry of Time, which was also a Goodreads winner. That video, if you haven't seen it, a little bit of a spoiler for the video, I guess. I read 3 books, and 2 of them I gave 5 stars, and 1 of them I DNF'd. So, I would say Goodreads is doing a pretty good job overall. This was new for me. I've never read a science fiction. That's what this is, a science fiction though. And it was amazing. I don't know how else to explain it. I found it so interesting, and it just sucked me in to this story, just to then tell me that it's based off of a real person, not like stuff that actually happened to this real person. But the fact that like the author, first of all, this is the author's first ever book, and the fact that the author just looked at some history stuff, saw this one guy that she was like, ooh, he sounded interesting, and then wrote an entire book about him coming to the future, or like in this book it's the present, but it's the future for us and him. And then the aspect of doing like a very little minimal amount of romance, but somehow making it not the focus at all, was so incredible. And I definitely think it was interesting to read this year because of everything going on out in the world. Basically, while we can't time travel, some of the stuff they do in this book definitely sounds like something the government would do in real life. And then we have yet another one of those lovely little new releases, Sunrise on the Reaping, which honestly, this might have been my favorite read so far this year. It's between this or Onyx Storm, I think, which should show me I need to read more fantasy. I don't know why I don't do that. Basically, Sunrise on the Reaping is the newest book in the Hunger Games series. And this was just so great. I love Haymitch. I loved him before this, but I love him so much more after. the stuff you get to know in this book, the callbacks, the seeing some of the characters from the other movies and books, it was just so great, and I'm so utterly excited for the movie. The casting on that movie, Ralph Fiennes, aka Voldemort, as President Snow. Yeah, that alone would make me want to watch it or read this book. But this was just so amazing. My opinion on the reading order is to read them in the order they were released. That's always going to be my ideal reading order. The same with the Binding and Keeping 13 or the Fourth Wing, whatever. I don't know if there's any talk about that. So read this last. That's still my ideal way. I have 2 that are Kindle books. Basically, 2 Twisted Crowns. I knew this was going to be good, and I don't know why I put this off, because I knew it was going to be good. Basically, I was sick and tired of romance, and I was like, hey, I could read this and then I would have finished a little series very quickly. So I read it and I loved it. The fact that we get an extra like POV, and that extra POV just adds so much. So while we had like the exciting aspect of like rectifying things from the first book and saving everything, we also got a new floundering romance because for some reason we needed that romance, and it was just such a great romance. And I loved like the new characters. We didn't introduce them, but we focused more on them, and that was what made this book so amazing in my eyes. And then this next one is it's weird. I have other 5-star reads that I haven't mentioned, and this is not a 5-star read. But when I was thinking, I was like, I have to mention this, and that is Summer Camp for Slasher Victims, or any of the books by Matthew Mercer. If you haven't followed me on TikTok, you wouldn't know this. I wanted to read thrillers, so I read Summer Camp for Slasher Victims, and then I ended up loving it, and so I ended up reading all of Matthew Mercer's books just in time for Prom Night for Slasher Victims, which is his newest release to come out, and that's actually my favorite out of all of those. I would say if you want like a fun little background story for some of the characters for the Slasher Victims series, read It Came From Above, It Came From The Lock, It Came From the Woods. Read those 3 and then read the other one. But if you don't care about like a fun, quick little background story, please go read Summer Camp for Slasher Victims and Prom Night for Slasher Victims. They're both on Kindle Unlimited, and they're great. If you're a horror movie fan, a summer horror movie fan, I would so recommend his books, all of them, but specifically the Slasher Victims series. And there's going to be a 3rd book at some point next year, I think he said at the end of it. And I just can't wait. I moved you guys a little bit because it's time for the next part of this video, which is the top 10 books I'm the most excited to read very soon. Okay, one of these I put on here because it's one of the books I want to get to, even though it's probably not one of the ones I'm most excited about. I want to get to it anyway, but once again, let's just take it from the top. This is in no way, shape, or form a ranking. This is just 10 random books that I knew I want to read before this year's over. And most of these are in fact for the summer. The Pairing by Casey McQueenston. I love Casey and her writing, and I don't know why I haven't gotten to this yet. I don't know. I kind of feel like I started focusing on other authors and other types of books, but then I saw this at a bookstore only, and I read the back, and I was like, wait, this sounds so interesting and so perfect for summer. And all the chapters look really cute. I need to try and see if I can find one and maybe open it up. So basically every single chapter starts with a little like that, which just says the city they're in and then what it pairs well with, which is either like a drink or some food. And then every single chapter has like a little drawing like that has to do with the city they're in. And then to the book that I kind of feel like I fell for the hype with buying this, and then I just stop thinking about getting to it. The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. I'm not a self-help person. Could I need some self-help? Maybe, but I just don't think reading self-help helps me personally, though I should probably give this a try. I listen to the Mel Robbins podcast, and I really love listening to her talk, which I know I should have listened to the audiobook, but I can't afford the audiobook. And I have the option for my mom to buy this for me. So we have a physical book, and I do really want to get to this. So yeah, a self-help book that I want. I guess I can say I want to get to it, even though I'm not like, yay, I need and like really want to read this. I do want to read it. That made no sense whatsoever. Basically, I'm not excited to read this, but I do want to read it. 2025 TBR, Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. This was actually one I was thinking about reading now, but then I decided not to read it. This is YA, which is the only thing that I feel like I keep bringing it up to talk myself out of doing it. But I've heard that it doesn't read as a YA, other than the fact that it doesn't have any spice, which I'm totally fine with. Actually, I think I could really use a romance book without spice. So then I think about that and I'm like, oh, I really want to pick it up. But I've had such bad luck with YA books lately, so I've decided to stop trying to read them, which I do still want to read this. Like I said, it's on my 2025 TBR. It looks really cute, and I've heard really great things about this. But I still get scared. Like, I keep being 2 seconds away from picking it up, and then I think about the fact that it's YA, and my brain says, nope, do not read that. And then I put on Hopeless by Elsie Silver, mainly because once I've read this, I've read every single physical book of Elsie Silver's that I own. I've still not read her first series, but I read all the Rose Hill series, and I just finished Reckless, which means, like I said, this is the final book that I feel like I own of hers that I really want to get to. And I do really want to get to this. First of all, because it's like finishing off a series, and finishing off a series feels so good. Mostly because then I feel like I can start a new one. Yeah. So I am going to try and get to this soon. Also just because it's a cowboy romance, and cowboy romances are just perfect for summer, in my opinion. I don't even know if it's actually a cowboy. Like, I don't think Bo is really a cowboy. Like, obviously he still lives in a farm, but like the only thing I feel like I've really heard about him is the fact that he is from the military, and obviously what's mentioned about what happens in the earlier books. How to Make Friends with the Dark, another one that is on my 2025 TBR that I know I want to get to. Kathleen Glasgow, I love her. The only book by hers I don't own is The Glass Girl, and I'm not sure if I'm going to read that or not. So far I'm going to focus on finishing this, because then I've finished, like, I don't know if this is a trilogy, but it's like I would have read all of those once I read this. And it's on my 2025 TBR. I love her books. They're always really heartbreaking, but they're also always, like, they're great reads. They're quick reads, like short chapters. And sure, they're sad, but I feel like as a person who kind of finds comfort in sad things like movies and books and music, her writing is just such a comfort for me. You and Me on Vacation by Emily Henry. This is the only Emily Henry book that I have yet to read. And yes, I feel embarrassed to say that. They're filming the movie, and I want to watch the movie. First off, because it's an Emily Henry book, and second of all, because of the casting for the movie. Chef's Kiss. I've heard it's great when you've read the book, and like with how you've pictured them. So I am very excited for this. It does, like, I've heard mixed things. A lot of people are telling me this is their least favorite Emily Henry book, but a lot of people have said the same thing about Great Big Beautiful Life, and obviously I love that one. So I'm trying to like pull out everybody else's opinion out of my head. I like hearing other people's opinions, but I need to be better at not letting them control what I read or when I read it, because I keep not reading books, and then when I finally read them, I feel bad because I end up loving them. And I'm scared it's going to be the same way with this one. I am planning on reading it this summer because I really, really want to do it. Another one that's on my 25 for 2025 I really want to read, Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I have literally... Also, this is so annoying. I started it, which means I've written inside of it that it's March 2025, and then I like underlined it, and I found tabs that I thought matched it and put them inside. And then I literally got to the prologue and I said, I don't want to read this right now, which means that this is technically bullshit because I didn't read it in March. So I don't know if I'm gonna like draw over that or whatever I'm gonna do, but I do really want to read this. I just wanted it to be in a fall setting. That's definitely why I pushed it off, because it was getting hotter outside and I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to read anything dark right now. But I know I'm gonna want to read something dark as soon as like summer's over or like on a rainy day. And this is one of the ones I'm the most excited about. And then we actually have a new book that I recently bought, and I bought it solely based on the fact that I saw one YouTube video where it was mentioned, and it was kind of like, it wasn't a booktuber, which is why I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And I want to work on reading more different kinds of books. It's outlined by Rachel Cusk. I don't know how to say that, or if the C is like Susk. I don't know. Basically, first of all, her covers are always really, I don't want to say interesting. You can see like small pictures of them right here. So they're always like white with a little picture of something and then just text, which I think is kind of interesting. And this one specifically just looks very summery, and I feel like it's the type of book where if I saw someone reading this in public, I would be like, oh, that looks like a smart book. So it's literally bought based on that alone. But this low-key looks like the type of book that like, you see like, I keep saying this, you see like smart people in book or like in movies walking around with a book that they are like, yeah, I've read this so many times and the spine's broken and it has like notes in the margins and stuff. That's what I feel like this book is giving, viewing wise. So I did in fact a little bit judge this book by the cover. I read the back and then I was like, oh, it also sounds interesting. It sounds unlike anything I've ever read before, which is what I was looking for. I feel like I need to branch out because I'm getting stuck in some of my older genres. And then this one, some people are going to be very excited to hear and see this, but this is actually on my 25 books for 2025 as well, so it shouldn't be a surprise. But Magnolia Parks. I kept saying to myself, I will start this series when I have finished The Boys of Tommen, which I could risk the new book of Boys of Tommen coming out in a month. But I feel like I'm ready to go into this world now as well. Don't ask me why I made up that rule. In my brain, those two are kind of connected. They came up on like BookTube and BookTok for me around the same time. So in that way, they're connected. I realized they're not at all about the same thing. They're not all the same vibe. Whatever. In my brain, I just kind of connect them. And I kept saying that they're two big series and therefore I want to finish one before starting the other. Finish Boys of Tommen, which means I'm officially thinking of starting this. I really am. I like this idea a lot, and I have a video idea for it, so look out for whenever that might be here. Also, these covers are to die for. I specifically said I want these covers or nothing. There's no offense, but I do not want a picture of someone's feet in high heels on my book. I want this because this is art. I don't know why I care so much about that, but I did. I didn't want any of the other books. And I have two on Kindle that I hope to get to, actually also this summer. The first one is 7 Days in June. This has just been on my radar lately because it's June and I want to read it this June because last year I think I like forgot all about it, and then all of a sudden it was July, and for some reason in my brain it feels wrong to read a book called 7 Days in June and not read it in June. So I'm hoping to get to it very, very soon because I have it like owned. I bought it on my Kindle for some reason, and I have heard great things about it. So I do really want to do that. And then the last book to round this entire thing off with is The Cotton Candy Massacre, Part Toots, I think it's called. It's the second book in a series. It's a slasher, summer type of thing. Some clowns eat a bunch of people. And I loved the first one. It was one of my favorite reads of last year. And the second one, I'm planning on reading it very soon. So that is in fact all for today's video. Let me know down below if you've read any of the books I've read and you loved them too, or if you hated them, let me know that too. Or if you've read any of the books I want to read, comment down below and convince me to read them. Convince me that they should be the first books I should read, or come up with video ideas. If you have a video idea where you're like, oh, that book would fit perfectly into this thing, let me know. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe. Turn on the bell notifications so you get notified every single time I post, which should be every single Saturday from now on. I will do my very, very best to get back into this because I need a routine, and this needs to be a part of that routine. Without further ado, I will see you all in the next one. Bye.